Listen, really listen to the sacred thunder inside your chest. That steady beat is proof that you are still being invited to live, to rise, to roar. Yet how many dawns have you spent shackled to yesterday's shadows, replaying conversations that left salt on your cheeks and bruises on your spirit? How many sunsets have you surrendered to the noise of other people's expectations, scrolling, comparing, shrinking, while your own dreams sat in the corner like an unopened gift? Family, tonight the universe leans close and whispers one fierce instruction: detach. Cut the cords that bind your worth to someone else's applause. Let go of the anchors disguised as memories, opinions, and comfortable excuses. Feel the weight leave your shoulders, feel the horizon widen, because purpose will not wrestle you for attention. It waits in silent confidence, knowing that when you finally lock eyes with it, you'll remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So inhale courage, exhale permission, and step out of the cage you did not even know you built. The path ahead is narrow, yes, but it is yours. Carved by your own relentless footsteps and lit by a fire that no storm can extinguish. Feel the first light of morning trace the outline of your face, and recognize that this rising sun is your daily invitation to liberation. Somewhere between the hush of dawn and the rush of obligation, an inner voice has been whispering that the weight you drag is not part of your anatomy. It is luggage you agreed to carry. Those quiet doubts, the names you were called in hallways and living rooms, the rules you accepted without questioning, none of them were welded to your bones. They were handed to you like hand-me-down coats that never quite fit, and somewhere along the way you started believing they were skin. Today, stand barefoot on the floor and picture every doubt sliding off your shoulders and clattering to the ground. Hear the metallic ring of chains you never noticed until you dared to imagine life without them. That sound is not loss, it is the music of emancipation. It is the overture to an entirely new score, where your heartbeat sets the tempo and your own name is finally the lyric. Pause and sense how your body reacts when you picture releasing one expectation that has outlived its usefulness. Maybe it was the unspoken rule that you must keep everyone comfortable even when it cost you your peace. Maybe it was the story that your talent needs permission slips signed by louder voices before it can walk into the world. Notice the tension flood out of your shoulders the moment you call that rule a lie. Feel the lungs expand, not just with air, but with possibility. Graduations and promotions may come with certificates, but nothing compares to the diploma your soul hands you the instant you withdraw from the curriculum of pleasing people. The moment you decide you were not born to be a consensus, your spirit throws a cap in the air and shouts freedom under a shower of invisible confetti. That celebration is quiet only to those still living under the regime of approval. Inside you, it's a stadium roar. Chains are rarely forged in public. They are welded in secret places where insecurity meets opportunity. A parent's casual criticism, a friend's backhanded compliment, a society's narrow definition of success. Each one slips a cool link around your wrist. Over time, the metal warms to your skin until you no longer feel the difference between bondage and belonging. That is why it takes deliberate stillness to discern which beliefs are bracelets and which are shackles. Sit with yourself in the hush of early morning or the blanket of midnight and interrogate every have-to that rules your day. Who said you have to measure progress by other people's calendars? Who said dreams have an expiration date? Ask the questions no one else can hear and watch flimsy myths crumble under the weight of honest inquiry. What remains is truth, lean, unbreakable, and tailor-made for you. The world will notice when you begin cutting links because it benefits from your restraint. The moment you step out of character, alarms go off in the minds of those who preferred you small and predictable. They may call your growth selfish, reckless, or impossible, but remember, safety for them has always meant stagnation for you. Opinions are cheap armor. They protect the speaker, not the target. Let them clash and clank like rusted shields falling to the arena floor while you walk past, weaponless yet invincible. Because authenticity does not need defense. It simply is. The courage to disappoint others rather than betray yourself is the founding act of every revolution that ever mattered, including the one now unfolding in your own chest. You will discover that some chains are ceremonial, draped around your spirit in the name of love. These are the hardest to see because they glow with good intentions. The family member who steers you toward a safer dream is not trying to clip your wings. They are trying to protect you from heights they were never allowed to reach. Love them. Honor them, but do not shrink to fit the dimensions of their fear. Stretch your wings anyway, not to rebel, but to reveal what is possible. Sometimes the most generous gift you can give your lineage is proof that the horizon is not a boundary, but a bridge. When you fly, you send wind back, to every ancestor who only imagined such skies. There is craftsmanship to liberation. Cutting chains is not the reckless swing of a sword. It is the precise snip of a jeweler freeing a diamond from excess stone. Start with the smallest link. Maybe the habit of apologizing for taking up space in conversations. Each time you catch yourself qualifying your opinions, pause, breathe, and state your truth as though the room were hired to receive it. That single act, repeated daily, will file through larger constraints. Timid emails become bold proposals, hushed dreams become articulated goals, and vague aspirations crystallize into concrete plans. Freedom is cumulative. Every micro act of audacity compounds into a character strong enough to drag mountains into motion. Understand that chains defend themselves by masquerading as identity. They whisper, "This is just who you are, shy, unlucky, inconsistent." But personality is a canvas, not a cage. You painted those colors under someone else's tutoring, and you can paint anew. Begin with language. Replace "I'm just not disciplined" with "I am training my discipline." Swap "I can't network" for "I am learning to connect." Verbs in motion break links of permanence. By framing yourself as a work in progress, you pry loose the bolts that anchor you to yesterday's limitations. You become fluent in the dialect of potential, and potential has no vocabulary for captivity. There will be nights when former chains whisper nostalgia, seducing you with the comfort of predictability. Growth often feels like walking barefoot on unfamiliar soil while hearing the siren song of old slippers waiting at the door. In those moments, anchor yourself to the visceral memory of how heavy you once felt. Recall the migraines of suppressed dreams, the tightness in your chest when your voice stayed silent. Use that memory like flint. Strike it against your newly won freedom until it sparks resolve. Say out loud, "I remember what it cost me to stay small." Sometimes the price of regression needs to be recounted before the value of progress is respected. Freedom, however, is not an end state, but a rhythm that requires maintenance. Once a chain is cut, you must guard the open space it leaves, or another weight will slide in. Protect your calendar from commitments that dilute your passion. Protect your ears from gossip that muddies your focus. Protect your eyes from screens that beam other people's curated triumphs into your evening peace. Liberation demands boundaries as fierce as prison walls, only this time they keep confinement out instead of in. Your no becomes a sacred word, not a rejection, but a redirection toward what truly matters. Finally, remember that chain cutting is contagious. Your audacity becomes a lighthouse for silent sailors who assumed the shore was myth. When they witness your stride unburdened, they start to feel the chafe of their own restraints. Do not be surprised when questions flood in. How did you do it? Wasn't it scary? Share your tools, your journals, your mentors, your midnight prayers, but also share your scars. Let them see that freedom does not mean absence of struggle, it means presence of purpose. In telling your raw story, you become both locksmith and mapmaker, handing out keys and directions to anyone ready to follow the sound of breaking chains into the wide, unclaimed territory of their own destiny. Grief is the body's stubborn insistence that what matters still matters, even after it has slipped beyond our reach. When a dream dies or a relationship unravels, the mind tries to rush past the wreckage, but the heart plants its feet in the rubble and refuses to move until every shard has been named. Honor that refusal. Sit in the dimness and let memory replay the laughter that once filled the room, the plans scribbled in notebooks, the ordinary Tuesdays that felt endless. Let the movie run until the credits roll. There is no detour around this theater. The only way forward is through every frame. A tear is not weakness spilling. It is truth overflowing. Sacred proof that you once dared to care. And caring was never a mistake. Stay long enough in that tender silence to feel the precise weight of what is gone. Trace its outline like a sculptor learning marble by touch alone. Notice the rough edges where words were left unsaid, and the smooth hollows where love lived fully. Admit what you wish had been different. Own it without self-indictment. Regret is a natural byproduct of passion. It shows you were brave enough to hold something breakable. Breathe into the ache rather than bracing against it. Each breath is a lullaby to the nervous system, telling it the world is still safe to feel. In this slow exhale, you disentangle sorrow from shame, grief from guilt, allowing the wound to bleed honesty instead of judgment. Eventually, sorrow invites conversation. Ask your pain what lesson it carries folded inside its wings. Listen without interrupting. Perhaps it teaches that love can be generous yet finite, that timing is as crucial as intent, or that your safety must never again be subcontracted to another's stability. Whatever wisdom floats to the surface, write it down like coordinates on a map. Wisdom gathered in the valley becomes the compass on the next climb. Without reflection, grief calcifies into bitterness. With reflection, it ripens into discernment. You did not lose simply to suffer. You lost to learn, a gravity that textbooks cannot teach. While you learn, resist the temptation to sterilize your story for public comfort. Speak the messy version, voice trembling, sentences looping, eyes watering. Authentic testimony punctures the illusion that everyone else is gliding while you crawl. In owning your pain aloud, you build a bridge of relatability. Strangers nod, friends exhale. Burdens lighten collectively. Isolation is grief's favorite accomplice, but transparency handcuffs them both. Remember, you are not auditioning for pity. You are testifying to endurance. And endurance, when spoken, becomes communal fuel. Someone out there will borrow your words like a match in their darkest night. When the tide of sorrow recedes, do not chase it. Stand on the newly revealed sand and notice what remains. Perhaps an unshakable resilience, a sharper intuition, or a gentler compassion for other wounded travelers. These are souvenirs no thief can steal. Acknowledge them with gratitude, not as consolation prizes, but as treasures forged in a furnace no one else could survive exactly as you did. Gratitude here is not pretending the loss was good. It is recognizing that goodness refused to stay buried beneath the loss. This subtle pivot marks the hinge between grieving and releasing. Releasing is not forgetting. It is untethering significance from suffering. Hold the memory in open palms, free from verdicts. Let it be a photograph rather than a chain. When triggers resurface, an old song, a familiar scent. Greet them like distant relatives. Welcome for a short visit, but no longer permanent residents in your emotional household. Offer them hospitality without handing over the deed. This is how you prove ownership of your inner space, by deciding who stays, who leaves, and who gets upgraded from a room to a postcard. Practice symbolic farewells. Write a letter you will never send, cataloging every gratitude and grievance, then burn it and watch the smoke translate your sentences into sky. Visit the river and release stones etched with names or dates. Ceremonies give the psyche something concrete to do with abstract pain. They convert feeling into action, action into closure. Even if the world never witnesses your right, your subconscious will stamp it as official. Over time, you'll feel lighter, not because memory faded, but because meaning shifted from burden to beacon. As space clears, plant new seeds deliberately. Curate experiences that contradict the narrative of loss. Laughter that arrives unforced. Projects that prove capability. Friendships that echo respect. Let joy be the protest song your heart sings against despair's dictatorship. Understand that embracing life again is not betrayal of what was lost. It is loyalty to what still lives inside you. Joy does not erase grief. It integrates it, weaving dark threads into a tapestry vibrant enough to hang in daylight. There will be days when grief's ghost knocks, asking to revisit familiar halls. Open the door with boundaries. Offer it a chair, but not your bed. Tea, but not your plans. Allow a brief dialogue. Remember, revisit, release again. Healing is cyclical, not linear, and each cycle spirals upward if you meet it with conscious grace. Over time, visits grow shorter, departures easier, until one quiet morning you realize the chair is cold and the tea untouched, and your soul is busy elsewhere building tomorrows, unmarred by yesterday's fingerprints. In this new rhythm, gratitude becomes a daily dialect. You thank the wound for the wisdom and the wisdom for the wings. You walk lighter, speak clearer, love wider. You recognize that letting go was never about severing attachment to people or dreams. It was about severing attachment to versions of yourself that could not thrive without them. Now, standing tall in redesigned skin, you understand a simple seismic truth. Grief was the chrysalis, release is the flight, and the sky has always been waiting. The mind is sacred acreage, carved by divine design and deeded solely to you. Yet every morning, 1,000 billboards try to plant themselves on that fertile soil before your first conscious breath. Wake up with authority. Step onto the porch of your awareness like a landowner at dawn, surveying what has tried to creep in overnight. Fear-laden headlines, the echo of someone's careless joke, half-remembered dreams of failure. Do not let those squatters set up camp. Sweep the perimeter with intention, a deep breath, a whispered prayer, a stretch that tells your nerves, I live here. Feel the borders of your skull like stone walls warmed by sunrise, and let gratitude stand guard at the gate. Gratitude is a vigilant sentinel. It checks every incoming thought for credentials. If it doesn't pay rent in perspective, it gets turned away. Inhale a list of blessings so specific it embarrasses cynicism. Exhale the stale air of yesterday's anxiety. In that first patrol of the day, you set the tone. This land is not a junkyard of random debris. It is a greenhouse where purpose is cultivated and only seeds of growth may enter. Once the gates are secured, tend to the inner architecture. Thoughts are furniture. Arrange them so the pathways inside your head invite movement, not clutter. Begin with the high traffic area, self-talk. Strip the walls of phrases that chip at your worth. I'm just average. I always mess up. Who am I to dream that big? And haul them to the curb. Replace them with sturdy affirmations crafted from oak. Sentences that can bear the weight of your future. I am under ongoing construction, but the blueprint is brilliant. Speak them aloud until the echo feels natural, because repetition is how raw timber becomes polished truth. Understand, this is not vanity, it is structural integrity. Skyscrapers don't apologize for steel beams, and neither should you. When insecurity hisses that this new decor is pretentious, smile like a homeowner flipping a switch. The light reveals the hiss as mere air escaping a deflated past. The next renovation involves the windows, your senses. Whatever you watch, read, and listen to is sunlight or smog streaming into your interior. Audit your media diet with the seriousness of a doctor prescribing life-saving nutrition. Entertainment that glorifies empty conflict, news that marinates you in perpetual dread, gossip that serves sugar rush cruelty. These are pollutants, no matter how artfully packaged. Curate instead a playlist that pours melody into your marrow, documentaries that pull back the curtain on possibility, conversations where ideas spar without drawing blood. When critics sneer that you're living in a bubble, let them know it's not a bubble, it's breathable air, meticulously filtered so your aspirations don't suffocate. Quality control is not ignorance, it's irrigation, channeling clear water to thirsty roots while diverting toxic runoff away from the garden. Visitors will knock, friends, colleagues, family, each carrying their own weather system. Some bring sunshine that lingers, some drag storms that flood every room. Establish a foyer called boundaries where you greet every energy at the threshold. Learn to say, I love you, but my living room is not a dumping ground for unresolved anger. Emotional generosity does not require emotional eviction, it requires zoning laws. Offer empathy in measured cups, not unmetered pipelines. When someone insists on projecting their guilt, jealousy, or apocalyptic worldview onto your walls, hand them a mirror instead. Mirrors are powerful eviction notices. They force projection to look at itself and often choose to leave. Remember, you are not cold for protecting your peace. You are warm enough to know how quickly firewood turns to ash if left unshielded from rain. Inside your property lies a study filled with goals, the blueprints of tomorrow. Guard this room with disciplined solitude. Schedule appointments with yourself as if you were meeting a dignitary. Phone silence, notifications off, door closed. In those hours, draft strategies, break ambitions into daily brickwork, track progress without decorating setbacks as failures. Treat distraction like a trespasser, escorted firmly outside. If the world bangs on the door with urgent matters that can wait, let voicemail be your butler. The master is currently unavailable. Please return when your urgency aligns with his purpose. Over time, rallying focus will feel less like battle and more like breathing, because consistency furnishes that study with shelves of evidence that your word to yourself is law. In the corridor between rooms hangs art, memories, beliefs, ancestral stories. Some portraits inspire, others guilt trip. Conduct a gallery audit. If a picture freezes you as the person you used to be, a failure, a victim, a perpetual supporting character, take it down. Replace it with canvases of moments when you stood tall. That time you helped a stranger. The certificate no one believed you could earn. The quiet victory you never posted online. These curated reminders become psychological accent lighting, guiding you at night when doubt prowls darkest. Should anyone accuse you of self-mythologizing, remember every monument in history started as somebody's decision not to let significance slip away unnoticed. Venture deeper to the garden of imagination where future realities germinate. Here, vigilance must partner with play. Allow daydreams to sprout without immediately pruning them with logistics. Record them in a journal the way explorers sketch unknown birds, with awe first, analysis later. But also fence this garden against pest name comparison and impatience. Comparison chews holes through budding joy by announcing someone has grown taller plants faster. Impatience uproots seeds before they mature, mistaking slow growth for no growth. Cultivate patience as a scarecrow in a wide-brimmed hat, arms outstretched, reminding you that some harvests require multiple seasons and that your timeline doesn't need another's approval to be legitimate. Every estate requires security drills. Emergencies do not send invitations. Train your mind in resilience so that when crises crash through the gate, illness, rejection, uncertainty, your inner firefighters know the exits and the extinguishers. Practice mindfulness meditation as a fire drill. Observe thoughts without judgment. Breathe until alarms quiet. Keep a toolbox of coping strategies. Exercise, music, trusted counsel, and label it clearly. Break glass in case of chaos. When disaster actually strikes, you won't scramble for instructions. Muscle memory will slide into gear, protecting structural beams you spent years reinforcing. People will marvel at your composure, unaware that calm is just rehearsed chaos. Night brings a different duty, closing rounds. Before sleep, walk the corridors of your consciousness, turning off lingering arguments, extinguishing the glow of unfinished tasks. Forgiveness is the final switch. Flip it for yourself first, then for others. Otherwise, resentment hums like neon through the night, stealing electricity that dreams need to flicker. Offer tomorrow a spotless desk by filing today's worries into a drawer labeled handled or hand over. Hand over means surrendering what exceeds your control to providence, trusting the universe to manage the night shift. Only then does rest perform its alchemy, repairing micro tears in muscles and marvels alike, so morning finds you renewed, not merely paused. Owning mental real estate is a lifetime mortgage, but the returns are generational wealth. Children, students, strangers will walk through the open park of your presence and pick up seeds that drift from your cultivated trees. They will taste a fruit called possibility and wonder how it grows. Tell them the soar was always there. It only needed a steward bold enough to claim it. And as they walk away carrying seedlings in their pockets, smile at the expanding forest beyond your walls, knowing your vigilance has multiplied into landscapes you may never see, yet helped create. Dawn is the contract signing hour, a sacred moment when the universe hands you a blank ledger and asks what deposits you will make before the world starts its noisy withdrawals. Slip out of bed like a negotiator, stepping into the boardroom of your own destiny, and declare the first line item: breath. Inhale deliberately, feeling oxygen rinse the residue of sleep from every cell. Exhale slowly, releasing the stale narratives that cling to yesterday. This is not just breathing, it is your opening bell, your official declaration that life begins on your terms. Before any screen flickers or voice demands attention, anchor yourself in stillness, so profound it becomes a baseline for the rest of the day's symphony. Let silence crown you CEO of your minutes. And watch how even the planet's spin seems to wait for your agenda. Next comes movement, the language the body speaks when words are insufficient. Stretch, walk, run, or dance. Choose any choreography that reminds your muscles they are instruments, not ornaments. Feel tendons strum, joints click like metronomes, blood drum through corridors of bone. This ritual is a memorandum to your biology. We are preparing for greatness, and greatness requires circulation. Sweat is simply ink signing the agreement between intention and action. Do not negotiate with excuses about time or comfort. The meeting is mandatory. The dress code is discipline, and the only attendee required is you. As the pulse quickens, imagine every drop of perspiration carrying a limiting belief out to the edge of your skin, where it evaporates under the rising sun. Feed yourself with reverence, as if you are fueling a vessel designed for interstellar travel, because you are. Whether it is a bowl of oats, a plate of fruit, or a sip of water kissed by lemon, eat with the awareness that each bite is a vote for sustained energy and clear cognition. Resist the sugary emissaries of instant gratification. They campaign for your taste buds, but conspire against your stamina. When you choose nourishment over novelty, you're casting a ballot for long-term sovereignty over short-lived seduction. Treat your kitchen like a pharmacy where the prescriptions are colors. The dark green of spinach for strength, the bright orange of carrots for vision, the deep blue of berries for memory. Every meal becomes a board vote, affirming that your mission merits premium fuel. Dialogue with your spirit through words, written, spoken, or whispered. Journal the tempest of thoughts before they turn into thunderstorms overhead. Scribble gratitude until the page glows. Confess fears until they shrink under ink's authority. Sketch goals so boldly they intimidate doubt out of the margins. If writing feels distant, then speak aloud. There is ancient power in hearing your own voice declare a future that only you can currently see. These sentences are not mere affirmations, they are legal clauses binding the subconscious to the conscious agenda. When the inner critic objects, record its concerns, interrogate their evidence, and countersign with courage. Over time, pages stack like bricks, constructing a fortress of self-trust you can retreat to when the world's verdicts arrive at your doorstep. Study something that stretches your mind beyond its comfort grid, a chapter of philosophy, a tutorial in a new language, a lecture on astrophysics, anything that forces neurons to forge fresh pathways. Intellectual hunger is a fire. Feed it daily and it will light corridors you didn't know existed, revealing opportunities camouflaged as problems. Learning is compound interest for the psyche. The more you accumulate, the more your cognitive wealth multiplies without extra effort. Do not be seduced by passive scrolling masquerading as knowledge. Curate intentional complexity. Let confusion sit with you like an uninvited guest until understanding arrives, and in that arrival, celebrate the neural handshake of new synapses connecting. You are architect and electrician wiring your brain for upgraded voltage. Schedule solitude as you would a critical client meeting. Block the calendar, silence the phone, and step into the echo of your own breathing. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the boardroom where intuition presents quarterly reports. Within that quiet, ask yourself questions you are afraid to answer in crowds. Am I living in alignment with my deepest values? What resentment am I nursing that poisons tomorrow? What dream have I delayed because convenience dressed as responsibility? Sit with whatever surfaces, no matter how uncomfortable. The first answers may be rehearsed, let them pass. Wait for the second wave, raw and unfiltered. That is where strategy hides, waiting to be drafted into action plans that no external advisory committee could conceive, because they were not wired to feel your specific pulse. Practice intentional generosity each day, not as random act, but as strategic investment. Send a voice note praising someone's unseen effort, tip larger than the service demands. Mentor a novice in your field for 15 fierce minutes. Generosity is social oxygen. It expands lungs on both sides of the transaction. More importantly, it installs abundant software in your mentality, antivirus against the malware of scarcity. When you give, you affirm that resources flow through you, not just to you, and flow is the natural state of rivers and fortunes alike. Keep receipts of these generous moments, not for bragging rights, but for self-audit during darker seasons. They will remind you that impact is within reach, even when outcome feels beyond control. Guard digital thresholds with the vigilance of a city gatekeeper during wartime. Before social feeds or emails flood your neural streets, ask, does this pixel byte advance or hijack my mission? Configure notifications like security clearances. Only urgent allies may bypass the gate. All others must queue until you are ready. Replace morning doom scrolling with curated content, lectures, music, meditative visuals that aligns with the blueprint you wrote in your journal. Technology is a brilliant servant and a tyrannical master. The difference is protocol. Establish protocols that prioritize creation before consumption, contribution before commentary. When devices chirp for your attention, remember you are not Pavlov's dog, you are Pavlov's bell. Ring only for causes you choose. Integrate micro rituals of recovery throughout the day, a minute of diaphragmatic breathing between meetings, 5 squats while the coffee brews, a glance at the sky to remind you ceilings are illusions. These tiny acts are maintenance checks on the machinery of ambition. Ignore them and the engine overheats in traffic. Honor them and the vehicle purrs past milestones. Use alarms or sticky notes until habits hardwire themselves into muscle memory. Over time, you will move through crowds with the calm intensity of someone whose internal battery never drops below 70%, and onlookers will mislabel it as luck. Unaware, it is simply disciplined, recharging. Finally, close the day with a ritual mirroring the dawn, signing off the ledger you open. Review the debits, energy spent on tasks and people, assess if the return justified the expense. Tally the credits, lessons learned. Kindness exchanged, progress logged. Forgive the imbalance where you overspent. Gratitude will cover the deficit until skill catches up. Lay down thoughts like tools after a hard day's building, clean, sharpened, ready for tomorrow's architecture. Whisper a final intention into the dark, I will rise again. Ledger cleared, non-negotiables, inked anew. Then surrender to sleep. The silent partner who processes data, repairs tissue, and prepares the stage for another sunrise negotiation where you, once again, hold the decisive pen. The loudest moments of victory often begin as whispers no one else can hear. Before the spotlight, there is the hush of 5 a.m. when you press stop on the alarm instead of snooze. Swing your legs over the edge of the bed and choose motion over inertia. No announcer hails that pivot from pillow to purpose. Yet in that flicker of resolve, the trajectory of an entire future tilts. Celebrate it. Feel the pride bloom like a small lantern inside your chest, illuminating the hallway to the kitchen where the coffee waits and yesterday's excuses linger like cobwebs just out of reach. Let the lantern burn them away. Smile, not because anyone is watching, but because you are fully present, fully aware that discipline practiced in darkness is the truest form of self-respect. Quiet victories seated at dawn grow roots deeper than the applause of any audience you may one day face. Later, while deadlines crowd your calendar and messages pile like fallen leaves, you pause mid-task to breathe. One intentional inhale, one careful exhale, and suddenly the swarm of urgency thins. This is progress. The ability to reclaim calm without booking a retreat or downloading another mindfulness app. You did that. No push notification rewarded you, no colleague clapped, yet stress levels retreated like a tide obeying the moon of your own centeredness. Mark it as a win, whisper well done to yourself, and feel the nervous system register that affirmation as a deposit of stability. These microscopic acknowledgments accrue interest. They teach the brain that effort is recognized, valued, and worth repeating. In a culture obsessed with fireworks, become fluent in the language of embers. Steady, warm, enduring. At lunch, you choose greens and grains over grease and sugar. The cashier barely looks up, your friends don't notice, and social media remains ignorant, but metabolism notices. Cells cheer in tiny choruses as nutrients flood pathways long starved of such attention. Celebrate with a nod of appreciation before the first forkful. You have just whispered to your body, I intend to keep you around for the long haul. This vow needs no confetti, it needs consistency. Each nutritionally aligned bite is a brick in the foundation of vitality that future decades will stand upon. Honor the meal with gratitude, not guilt, and relish the quiet power of saying yes to longevity in a single unremarkable choice. When the afternoon slumps and the couch calls seductively, you lace up shoes and walk the block, maybe two. No marathon medal awaits, no selfies commemorate the sweat beginning at your hairline, but lungs expand, joints loosen, and creativity sneaks back in the side door. Celebrate the rhythm of footfalls against pavement like drums heralding your return to motion. You have just reminded gravity it does not dictate your schedule. You negotiate terms with momentum. Take notice of the sky's color, the pattern of light on leaves, the orchestra of ordinary sounds accompanying your stride. These details are proof that progress is as much about perception as performance. See vividly, feel deeply, and the mundane stroll transforms into a pilgrimage of self-care. Back at the desk, a task that once took hours now yields in 40 focused minutes because you have practiced, refined, iterated. No banner drops from the ceiling announcing your improved efficiency, yet you feel the difference. An internal high five between past perseverance and present proficiency. Pause to acknowledge it. Jot a quick note in your progress journal. Email sequence drafted in record time. This simple record is evidence, a receipt of advancement. Someday when motivation wanes, you will flip through pages and remember that growth often hides in the increments, not the leaps. Those pages will speak louder than external praise, reminding you that mastery is built stucco thin layer by layer until walls strong enough to withstand criticism rise around your craft. Evening approaches and you resist the gravitational pull of scrolling through dramas that are not yours. Instead, you read 10 pages of a book that stretches your thinking just beyond comfortable reach. The house is quiet. The only applause is the soft rustle of turning pages. Celebrate the neural sparks dancing in the silence. 10 pages today become 300 by month's end. Become shelves of acquired insight by year's close. Become a mind furnished with perspectives wide enough to host possibilities your former self couldn't fathom. Knowledge rarely arrives with trumpets, but it fortifies like stone. Quiet, unassuming, indispensable. Pat the cover when you close the book. It is a door you just opened within your own consciousness. You draft a kind message to someone whose efforts often go unseen, perhaps a coworker who steadies the team or a friend enduring hidden battles. Your note lands in their inbox with a nearly inaudible ping, yet somewhere miles away a spirit lifts. Nobody else knows, but you know. Celebrate that ripple. Acts of encouragement sow seeds in soil you might never walk. Yet forests can rise from such invisible generosity. Recognize the influence embedded in every thoughtful word. It is a form of progress that transcends personal metrics and spills into communal legacy. Quiet kindness is an investment whose dividends return in softened hearts and strengthened connections, sometimes years later, sometimes never disclosed, always meaningful. When night drapes the city and fatigue whispers temptations of self-doubt, you didn't do enough, you aren't enough, you counter with evidence. The dawn lantern, the mindful breath, the nourishing lunch, the purposeful walk, the efficient work, the enlightening pages, the supportive message. One by one, you lay these quiet trophies on the mental altar until the voice of inadequacy retreats, outnumbered and outshined. Celebrate this inner courtroom victory. Self-advocacy is progress of the highest order, training you to be both champion and judge, weighing the day with scales tipped toward grace. Sleep will come easier wrapped in the knowledge that progress, though quiet, was persistent and undeniable. Before surrendering to rest, you jot tomorrow's intentions. 3 simple actions aligned with your larger vision. Planning is a silent drum roll that sets the stage for another symphony of small wins. Celebrate the foresight. Where many flounder in reactive loops, you step into proactive cadence, choreographing circumstances to the rhythm of your values. There is dignity in preparation unseen. It signals respect for your aspirations and trust in your ability to meet them. Close the journal and feel the future lean toward you, eager to collaborate. Finally, as dreams edge nearer, you whisper gratitude for the body that moved, the mind that learned, the heart that reached, the spirit that persisted. Gratitude is the closing anthem of quiet progress, a humble yet thunderous applause heard only in the chambers of your being. Celebrate that resonance. It reverberates through marrow and memory, stitching today's subtle triumphs into the tapestry of a life steadily ascending. When morning returns with its blank ledger, you will meet it not as a novice, but as an artisan of incremental glory, ready once again to craft greatness from the quiet. Vision begins in the hush before dawn, when streetlights still outshine the sun and your footsteps echo like questions no one else is awake to hear. In that half-lit silence, the world is blank parchment and your imagination is a wild quill, sketching futures too audacious for the timid daylight chatter ahead. Hear your heartbeat thrum against your ribs like a starter's pistol. That pulse is ancient evidence that you are licensed to dream beyond whatever boundaries yesterday. Validation sleeps late, hungry for applause, but vision is up early, packing provisions. Curiosity, conviction, and a map only you can read. Walk now, even if the road is a rumor. Each stride in solitude etches intention into the earth. And though no one claps, the horizon leans closer, intrigued by the sound of someone brave enough to travel without an audience. As sun rises, the village stirs. Eyes appear at windows, measuring, comparing. Validation wakes ravenous, offering instant comfort. Turn back toward the crowd. Let them tell you where to go. But you tighten the laces of resolve and keep moving. Vision is forward-facing. It knows applause can sometimes be a leash. The cheering that flatters today can yank you off course tomorrow when it demands encores you never agreed to perform. Remember stories of explorers who sailed off maps others insisted were complete, how they were mocked until their return redrew the known world. Carry that memory like a compass. True north is rarely the most populated route. If onlookers criticize your pace or direction, thank them silently for their concern and adjust nothing. Their metric is popularity, yours is destiny. Mid-morning heat invites doubt to sweat through your confidence. You scroll past highlight reels, colleagues announcing promotions, classmates flaunting milestones, strangers posing as success stories. Validation taps your shoulder, whispers, post something impressive, prove you're worthy. Vision, however, gestures toward the untouched terrain ahead and asks, will this post move the mission or just feed the moment? Close the app. Sit on a roadside rock and breathe until the noise dims. Goals exposed to premature applause risk becoming trophies instead of tools. Guard nascent ideas like seedlings. They need soil, water, and time, not spotlights that scorch before roots take hold. When it's harvest season, fruit will speak for itself, and any applause then will be echo, not instruction. Around noon, you reach a crossroads of comforts, cafes of conformity, markets of mainstream opinion. The aroma of easy agreement drifts like fresh bread, tempting you to rest. Validation waves a menu. Order the special of the day. Approval comes with a side of belonging. Yet the price is steep. Authenticity. Vision points to the trail less paved, its signpost weathered, its bench absent. You choose the unsignposted direction, stomach grumbling for companionship, but spirit fed by the sparse feast of integrity. Along this lonelier track, you encounter fellow travelers who carry their own maps, inked with personal prophecy. Conversation sparks not from mutual flattery, but from the friction of distinct dreams, rubbing shoulders, each flame fueling the other. You realize true community forms not around echo chambers, but around campfires where different logs burn toward common warmth, purpose. Afternoon shadows stretch, summoning memories of past stumbles. A critic's old comment resurfaces. Who do you think you are? Validation offers quick relief. Change course, downgrade ambition, fit in. Vision counters with historical audit. Every breakthrough was once an insult waiting to mature into innovation. Think of jazz, once called noise. Of flight, once deemed impossible. Of every legend who first walked as a punchline. Your name may currently reside in someone's joke, but jokes age poorly when faced with relentless progression. Keep walking, letting sweat erase self-doubt, letting miles dilute mockery. The path itself is teacher and testimony. By dusk, it will spell your credentials and footprints. Clouds gather, a storm threatens. Criticism now turns to ridicule. Forecasts of failure broadcast on every channel of your mind. Validation flicks through its emergency kit of second-guessing and people-pleasing. Vision instead studies the sky and notes storms, water seeds, and test shelters. Rain lashes, wind howls, but you pull your jacket tight, stitched from past survivals, and press on. In the downpour, crowds disperse. Only those welded to purpose remain visible. Lightning flares, illuminating rugged progress you hadn't seen in clearer weather. Suddenly you realize the storm is applause of a different sort, nature clapping for grit. It doesn't trend online, but it resonates in bone and marrow. Strengthening structures accolades can't reach. Dusk arrives with a gentle hush, and lanterns of self-reflection flicker on. You tally the day's silent triumphs, miles covered, temptations discarded, fears faced. Validation is quiet now, drowsy from lack of attention, curled in a corner like an ignored pet. Vision unrolls tomorrow's map, reveals new twists and summits. You feel fatigue, yes, but it's earned. An honest ache, not the hollow exhaustion that trails people-pleasing. Stretch under a sky bruised with sunset, letting colors remind you that masterpieces are mixtures of light and shadow. Promise yourself rest, not retreat. Linger in gratitude that your course was chosen by conviction, not consensus. Fulfillment lives in that difference, glowing like twilight ember, enough to guide you until dawn. Night deepens and campfires dot the distance, signals from others walking by, vision. Their sparks form constellations of courage overhead, proof you are part of an unseen fellowship spanning valleys and peaks. Validation cannot create such cosmic kinship. Only vision weaves solitary threads into stellar tapestries. Toss a fresh log of commitment onto your own fire. Listen to it crackle like tomorrow's first step being rehearsed. Remember the day's lessons. That early calm is negotiable ground. That applause can be leash or echo. That storms baptize the steadfast. That rest is strategy. Etch these truths into memory's bark so you can touch them later when fog hides the trail. In the silent hours before sleep, you revisit your initial dawn promise. Have you honored the blueprint etched in your spirit? Across the ledger, you find no columns for likes, no entries for retweets, no rows for someone else's rating. Instead, you see solitary check marks. Vision consulted, course corrected, resilience exercised, authenticity preserved. Satisfaction blooms not as fireworks, but as steady embers warming the inner chambers of self-trust. You close your eyes, letting tomorrow tug gently at your sleeve. Another chance to walk unseen roads. Fueled not by the hunger for ovation, but by the quiet, unbreakable agreement between possibility and perseverance. Dreams arrive, vivid as prophecy. In them you stride along a ridge where cities below flash scoreboards of opinion, yet the summit's air carries only the musk of pine and the hush of altitude. Up here, every inhale tastes of future, every exhale releases the past. Your footsteps leave imprints of conviction, that snow will soon soften but never erase entirely. The dream reminds you. Permanence lies not in footprints or applause, but in the ripple of courage your journey radiates, inspiring others to lift their eyes from crowded boulevards to wilderness skies. You wake before sunrise, heartbeat syncing with that ancient starter's pistol again. Vision waits at the door, map in hand. Validation sleeps on. Every journey worth taking eventually circles back to the traveler, and tonight that traveler is you, standing taller, breathing deeper, holding a map inked with lessons no one can erase. You began by hearing the quiet thunder of your own heart and daring to detach from every expectation that dulled its beat. One courageous step at a time, you cut invisible chains that once disguised themselves as destiny, freeing muscles you didn't know were clenched and possibilities you couldn't yet pronounce. From that first release, grief rose like a tide, demanding to be honored rather than denied, and you met it with open palms. You sat with the ache until it told its whole truth, then you blessed it, gathered its wisdom, and released it like a dove into a widening sky. As the days unfolded, you learned to guard your mental real estate with the vigilance of a seasoned sentinel, patrolling the gates at dawn, curating the furniture of your thoughts, and erecting boundaries sturdy enough to withstand any storm of outside noise. In the stillness of that fortified mind, you drafted a pact with yourself. Daily non-negotiables that now anchor every sunrise. Breath became sacred, movement became proclamation, nourishment became covenant, study became fire, solitude became boardroom, generosity became strategy, and digital discipline became freedom in disguise. With each deliberate action, you inscribed your signature on the contract of purpose, turning routine into ritual and minutes into monuments of intention. Yet progress, you discovered, doesn't always shout from mountaintops. It often whispers in hallways. You mastered the art of celebrating quiet victories, those candlelit moments when you chose presence over autopilot, nourishment over numbness, action over inertia. You felt pride bloom in the dark before dawn, honored a single mindful breath in the chaos of midday, and treated every page turned, every kind word offered as evidence of momentum no applause could quantify. By valuing these intimate triumphs, you rewired your brain to recognize effort as seed and persistence as water, ensuring a harvest of confidence even when external validation went missing. All these strands, detachment, grieving, release, protected thoughts, discipline, rituals, and humble celebrations, have now braided themselves into a single unbreakable cord. That cord is your path forward, pulling you toward horizons only the brave can reach. And as you look ahead, understand this: the world may still toss storms across your trail, critics may still report rain, and old chains might rattle in distant memory. But you are different now. You carry an inner climate immune to cold fronts of doubt, warmed by the fire of self-trust. You know how to stand in the rubble and architect a cathedral of resilience, how to harvest wisdom from loss, how to defend your focus like treasured acreage, how to program your days with rituals that summon strength on command, and how to dance in the quiet glow of incremental growth until it lights the night for others. So continue, step by step, breath by deliberate breath, knowing each sunrise is another invitation to recommit to this path you've carved. Continue to cut what binds, to feel what hurts, to guard what matters, to invest without compromise, and to raise the silent glass to every unseen milestone. In doing so, you become a living testament that greatness is less a thunderclap and more a steady drum. Less a single leap and more 1,000 faithful footsteps. May your drumbeat guide those still searching for their rhythm. May your footsteps leave imprints wide enough for others to follow. Thank you for lending your heart to these words and your courage to this moment. Thank you for choosing liberation in a world that profits from your captivity, reflection in a culture addicted to noise, and relentless hope where resignation once lived. As you leave this space, carry your lantern high, for its light was forged in the furnace of your own transformation. May it guide you through valleys, across oceans, and into arenas where your gifts can roar unhindered. Until our paths cross again, walk boldly, rest wisely, love deeply, and remember, every quiet victory is already shaping a future loud with purpose. Thank you, God bless you, and good night.